Welcome to today's Access PeopleXD Evo webinar, Strategic Workforce Management, Right People, Right Place and Right Time. I'm Emma Parkin, Head of Propositions at Access. Whether you're struggling with absence management, complex scheduling across multiple locations, or need to demonstrate clear return on investment from your workforce management investment, you're in the right place. Over the next 25 minutes, we'll examine the workforce management challenges facing mid-large organisations, explore strategic approaches delivering measurable improvements, and then our solutions consultant, Josh, will demonstrate exactly how this transformation works in practice. So let's get started. Let me start with a statistic that should alarm every senior HR leader. Only 31% of UK workers believe their employer genuinely focuses on being as productive as possible. Think about that. 7 out of 10 employees don't think you're serious about operational efficiency. This isn't just about perception, it reflects the reality that most organisations are still managing their workforce with outdated approaches, spreadsheets, and reactive firefighting. This productivity crisis manifests in two extremes. During peak periods, whether that's Christmas in retail, summer in hospitality, or project deadlines in construction, you're understaffed, losing revenue, and disappointing customers, and probably burning out your teams. During quiet periods, however, you could be overstaffed, wasting money, creating inefficiency. Neither scenario is sustainable. Now add the flexibility crisis. 60.3% of shift workers say their schedule isn't flexible if they need to change it. Now, in an era where flexibility is a top attraction and retention tool, we're failing 6 out of 10 employees. They can't swap shifts for family emergencies. They can't adjust patterns for childcare. They're trapped in a rigid systems designed for operational convenience, not human needs. The retention impact is brutal. 23% of employers say unsocial hours is the main reason employees quit. Nearly a quarter of your turnover, with all of its associated costs, comes down to scheduling. The £30,614 cost per lost employee means that much of it is self-inflicted through poor workforce management. And the pressure is intensifying. Since September 2024, employees with irregular hours can legally request predictable work patterns. This isn't just about compliance, it's about recognising that the old ways of managing shifts and schedules are no longer fit for purpose. Your workforce has rights, expectations, and options. If you can't meet them, another organisation or even a competitor will. Now, these challenges play out differently across sectors, but the underlying problems we see are universal. In manufacturing, you're juggling 24/7 operations while ensuring adequate rest periods and safety compliance. One scheduling error doesn't just impact productivity, it risks accidents, regulatory penalties, and lives. Yet most manufacturers still rely on manual processes and supervisor knowledge that walks out the door the moment that they leave an organisation. Retail and hospitality face extreme volatility. The same store that might need 50 staff on Black Friday, they might only need 10 on a Tuesday morning. But your workforce planning systems can't flex that dynamically, so you either lose sales or worse payroll. Meanwhile, constantly asking staff to work evenings and weekends is driving your best people to competitors with better work-life balance. Construction companies coordinate complex project-based scheduling where having the wrong skills mix doesn't just delay projects, it creates safety risks. You need qualified scaffolders before bricklayers, certified operators for specific equipment, and the ability to respond when weather or supplies disrupt carefully planned schedules. Transport and logistics operations navigate a maze of driving time regulations while managing an ageing workforce approaching retirement. Every scheduling decision must balance legal compliance, customer commitments, and driver preferences. Yet most still use systems that can't see these conflicts until they become a crisis. Across all sectors, we see two fundamental failures. First, limited visibility into real-time capacity and utilisation. You don't know if you're overstaffed in a Manchester site while understaffed in a Birmingham site until it's too late. Second, a persistent disconnect between operational needs and employee expectations. Operations want maximum flexibility, employees want predictable schedules. Without intelligent systems to balance these needs, everyone loses. But here's where it gets exciting. Organisations transforming their workforce management are seeing extraordinary results that should capture any CFO's attention. First, the hard savings. Organisations implementing proper workforce management software achieve an average 7% reduction in labour costs. For a company with a £10 million annual wage bill, that's £700,000 straight to the bottom line. Not through redundancies or pay cuts, but through intelligent deployment. This eliminates unnecessary overtime, reducing agency spend, and matching staffing levels to actual need and demand. The productivity gains are even more impressive. Organisations using analytics for workforce decisions see a 15% productivity increase. They know exactly when and where to deploy resources, which skills combinations work best, and how to predict and prevent absence patterns. They make decisions based on data, not guesswork. But here's what really should delight senior HR leaders. 65% of companies report that workforce management software actually improves employee engagement. This isn't despite the technology, it's because of it. When employees can see schedules in advance, swap shifts easily, and have input into their patterns, satisfaction soars. When managers spend less time on scheduling crises and more time leading, performance improves. This is particularly critical for your future workforce. 77% of millennials say flexible scheduling enhances their productivity. They're not asking for flexibility as a perk, they're telling you it makes them better at their jobs. The organisations that listen and adapt are getting more from their people while improving retention. The transformation is clear. Modern workforce management isn't about control, it's about optimisation. It's about giving operations the efficiency they need while giving employees the flexibility they demand. It's about turning workforce deployment from a weekly crisis into a strategic advantage. Let me put this into context for your organisation. Traditional workforce management creates a vicious cycle. Poor visibility leads to reactive decisions, which create inefficiencies, which frustrate employees, which increases absence and turnover, which makes planning even harder. Modern workforce management creates the virtuous cycle. Real-time visibility enables proactive decisions, which optimizes deployment, which empowers employees, which in turn improves engagement and retention, which makes planning more predictable and effective. The organizations winning in today's market aren't just filling shifts, they're strategically deploying human potential. They're turning workforce management from a necessary evil into a competitive differentiator. Every schedule becomes an opportunity to balance operational excellence with employee satisfaction. So we've seen the crisis. Only 31% believe their employers focus on productivity. 60% can't get schedule flexibility, and nearly a quarter quit over unsocial hours. We've felt the sector-specific challenges and the universal struggle to balance operational needs with employee expectations. And we know the transformation is possible. 7% cost savings, 15% productivity gains, and improved employee engagement. The question is, how do you achieve this at scale across locations, departments, and different workforce types? I'd now like to welcome Josh Morris, Solutions Consultant here at Access, who works with organisations daily to transform reactive administration into strategic operational control for your workforce management processes. Josh will demonstrate how Access PeopleXD Evo enables companies to achieve the right people in the right place at the right time through intelligent scheduling, absence management, and predictive workforce analytics. Josh, over to you.
Thanks, Emma. So I wanted to jump in and look at some of the ways we can look at PeopleXD Evo and look at some of the strategic workforce management functionality. So here we are in the manager dashboard, primarily focusing on the workforce management roster dashboard. Now there's numerous ways we can collect time and attendance information alongside things like clocking in to full roster and full auto roster functionality in the PeopleXD Evo solution, looking at the right place for the right employees at the right time. We know by some of Emma's statistics there previously that employers focus on productivity leads to culture or strategy issues. 60% can't change shifts when needed, and also those labour costs can be saved hugely through the PeopleXD solution. So we're going to go through some of the functionality today and look at some of those key rostering and auto rostering functionality. Here in the manager dashboard, we can see the specific area that Mike, the manager, is in charge of. He can see some key KPIs on the screen here, look at those breaches of working time directives, looking at planned absences across the different teams, and also factor in budgetary restraints or areas that he needs to focus on. Again, some of these different alerts can be configured by manager Mike there. And we can see the full roster details. Again, thinking about the right people in the right place at the right time. Here we can see Mike's individual team members, the days of the different week they are working, but also those shift patterns, and we can change the roster on the fly. We can also display budgetary in values or hours, again, giving those KPIs to their managers across the different teams and how their roster currently looks. If we look at the different flags and the different areas that we're looking at here, we can see the details across the different team members. We can see when they're due to work, and if we scroll across there, we can see the time and the department or role that they are associated with. Within the roster details screen here, we also have the ability to look at the different areas and the different days. We can change the roster on the fly. We can update this by certain areas or bulk update a full roster if required. We also have the ability to look at a day view as well, so providing that key visibility to those managers around the different staff areas, and the grey areas on the screen here look at those different availability periods that individual is due to work. Again, coming across those people turning up late or calling in sick, a manager has the access and the visibility to slide across those different areas. The manager can also group by specific team areas, specific qualifications, and also can input absences on the fly in that roster screen here, again providing that flexibility, visibility, and key information across the different teams. If we input an absence here, we can select the leave type. The better the narrative and the more leave type and reasons we put in here, the better the trends and the analytics out of the back of the PeopleXD solution. We can then save that absence detail away. We can then add additional return to work information, as well as look at those absences in the total. You'll notice there that sick leave has then been updated on that roster, again providing that key insight and visibility to those managers across those different teams. If we look at the time exceptions element of the solution, again, not just clocking in and clocking out, but what happens if individual employees clock in late, they do extra hours related to a certain project. Again, how is that going to be paid by the manager through a full approval process? It's all workflowed into the payroll module. Again, as it's a unified solution, the PeopleXD solution, anything pay affecting will end up in the payroll module, again providing key insights and visibility to those different areas and different employees around Mike's team here. We can see Alice with an explained absence. We can see Mike there that was late, again due to their clock-in information, clocking in and clocking out, and also those extra overtime shifts that have been agreed by employee and manager. Again, right colleagues in the right place at the right time. We can approve that specific lateness, approve that overtime, and also create those different leniencies in the solution from a time exceptions perspective. Calculating and capturing all this time and attendance data as well can be done by clocking in, clocking out via the kiosk app, by the mobile application, or also through the desktop as well. A variety of ways of capturing those employee details and time and attendance. Here we can see a blank roster or rota for the next week, so we can see every single member of staff is on rest. Now, utilising those roster rules, looking at how many store assistants in this example we require across certain peak or busy areas of the week, we can then factor in how many store assistants, how many managers, how many key holders we require across the organisation or across the different departments. We can then see things like demand, so we require 2 store assistants on Monday. Currently there's 0 scheduled to work. This is where some of our auto roster functionality comes in. We can also also factor in the different types of shift patterns as well. So whether it's an early start, whether it's a late finish, or whether it's a day shift as well. Again, looking at those statistics, those rules around the different roster elements, ensuring that you have the correct number of staff in the busy times and the right amount of staff and skills in the right places across those busy periods. Again, looking at all of these bits of key information around the roster speeds up that process so the flexible working can be organised, but also we can then auto roster based on these background rules to ensure that you have the correct people with the correct qualifications or skills in the right places. So if we go ahead and click that auto roster button there, that is going to look at all of those rules in the background, and this can also include looking at people working Saturdays or Sundays on a weekly basis. Again, thinking about being flexible amongst the teams as well. Looking at some of those stats that Emma talked about, with 23% saying unsociable hours is the main reason employees quit. You'll see in a number of seconds there, clicking the auto roster button, that has now filled our workforce management roster dashboard, looking at all of those rules, looking at all of those changes, and now we can see and change that roster on the fly if we wanted to change someone's shift pattern in particular. Now we can see the statistics off the back of that to the required areas. We can also start to look at uncovered shifts, so those shifts that haven't yet been filled by suitable individuals. Here we can see those specific shifts. Now we can assign those individually to the required or individual employees that have passed that initial step, looking at those rules and background rules, or alternatively we can publish those available shifts to a recommended team, maybe bank staff, the home team, or select individual employees. Again, providing that flexibility means that people are in the correct place, but also have a good work-life balance across the different teams. Think about the huge saving of labour costs in here. That took a minute or two to create that auto roster with those key background rules and regulations in there. Again, speeding up that process for managers. They're happier and employees are a lot happier with the shifts that they are due to work in the coming weeks and months. You can also create cyclical shifts as well, so 4 on, 4 off. We know that a lot of different industries require a lot of different shift patterns with different areas of the organisation throughout the year. Now we move to the mobile application. So again, employees have the visibility on the different areas, the different shifts that they are due to work in advance. Again, they are used to the shift patterns they are due to work. Again, thinking about that increase in productivity and those labour saving costs. We're not having to draft anyone in or agencies last minute. And again, 60% of individuals saying they can't change shifts when needed. We're providing that visibility in the PeopleXD solution. Alongside the capturing of those roster details, we also have the ability to look at the annual leave. So submitting annual leave through the mobile application or desktop from employees, we can see our entitlement, how many days we've carried over and how many days we've taken. Simply by clicking the button on the screen, we can then select the specific areas and the specific dates that we want to select for that annual leave. Again, this could be an annual leave in days or hours, but also it could be that time in lieu has been accrued via those extra hours worked that we saw earlier on. If we take a minute to look at the submission of that annual leave in the PeopleXD mobile app, we can then see those previous requests that have been submitted and the status in which those approvals are at. So again, employees have full knowledge and visibility. We're simply selecting the dates that we want to have off. And again, in here, background rules can be configured by heads of departments if there's certain areas of the organisation that only allow certain people to be off at certain times. Again, getting the right people in with the right skills, but also not allowing them to overbook leave when peak times occur. Going back to the main screen as well here, we can then see those shifts that I talked about in the future, so employees know when they're due to work as far in advance as you require them to. We can then see the shifts, any leave requests in their employee calendar, again providing that full visibility as well. And if there were to be background rules in play there for absences or annual leave requests, you can see other individuals that are due to be off or you're working alongside on specific times and dates. As I mentioned earlier, you can also clock in and clock out throughout the mobile application. Again, in here, that's going to look at our geofence locations through the mobile application so that individuals are clocking in the right places. Alongside this, you also have the PeopleXD kiosk app, which is a tablet or an iPad that a user can input their code. Thinking about the timesheets example, we then submit a store assistant for extra hours worked in that agreed time scale for managers. We can then submit that extra hours that we've worked on a certain project and it will end up in the payroll module, and it's a unified solution in the payroll module and pay affecting. We also have that shift swap key functionality. So again, the flexibility for employees to shift swap. Again, here it's going to look at the skills with the individual. So you're not being left short with key holders, fire wardens, and all of those key store managers that need those key individuals in at certain times. It's going to run through those background rules and can also include an approval or rejection via managers if you wish. Again, this is key functionality to provide flexibility for employees. Again, reasons for leaving the organisation where shifts aren't flexible enough. We then have uncovered shifts as well. So publishing those uncovered shifts that I talked about earlier, an employee can go into the mobile app, view those uncovered shifts and accept or decline those uncovered shifts. That is going to update their calendars, those shift areas, and also then they'll be paid for that extra hours or extra work that they've completed. Again, it's one single unified solution. There's no manual entry, manual inputs, imports or exports here. We're looking at that full roster capability, but also those key time and attendance areas too. In here we have the availability hours as well, so employees can look at the different availability options. And again, this is them not determining the different shifts that they want to require. Again, it just provides that flexibility for managers. So if you'd like to find out more, please reach out to the team. Thank you.
Thanks so much for joining us today. I really hope you've picked up some useful insights and can see how what we've shown you today can help tackle the challenges you're facing. If what you've seen resonates with you, why not take a look at how Access PeopleXD Evo could work for your organisation? You'll find all the details on our website, and you could book a demo that's tailored just to you. We'll pop that link up on the screen now. Thanks again, and have a great day.